What a great day to be a J Defender. Now, if you haven't seen this video on your screen right now, it'll be linked in the description. It's not mandatory you watch it, but I'm going to refer back to what it's saying a lot in terms of J, with the timestamp for what you need to know showcasing the description. Now, on with the actual video itself. For starters, I want to reiterate something I mentioned in my In Defense of Murder Wasted Characters video. I still think J is a dark parallel to V. They both have strong personalities. While V is strictly a facade, J despises N for existing, while V cares for N but doesn't want to show it. J is egotistical, while V, though she isn't necessarily humble, she definitely is in comparison to J. That's what I said originally, but to realistically the special, I can elaborate on these. They do both have strong personalities, but J's is also a facade. When she's around N and V explaining their mission to kill all worker drones, she's reserved, calm, and tries not to let them see her fear. Even when she's alone, she's basically as much as a goofball as N. That's when she's alone by herself, however. When she's alone with Sin on call, at first she tries to keep up her reserved persona, but obviously she's scared and Sin knows it, which she uses that fear to her advantage, constantly manipulating not just J, but N and V as well, convincing them, J especially, they're on the winning side. Side note, but I love J's JC Jensen outfit. That took way too long to say. I have so many takes of me just trying to say that. Okay, side note, but I love J's JC Jensen. This is a fucking tongue twister. Side note, but I love J's JC. Side note, but I love J's JC Jensen. Side note, but I love J's JC Jensen. But putting that aside, J being visibly upset around N and V when they're not paying attention to her, and pretending she isn't upset when they are, is a very realistic thing to do, and V noticing J's upset adds another level of realism. Another thing I want to mention, the fact that all three of them believe in Santa is so random, but that's the most murderous thing to do ever. I mean, it's canon that dogs are made immortal in this universe, so this is simply true of believing in Santa should be that surprising, though let's discuss the implications of this. Tessa's age is really ambiguous, however, she's most likely around 10 to 14 years old, pre-Halloween Massacre that is. I know kids learn Santa isn't real at different ages, but I can't see Tessa's parents entertaining the idea of Santa Claus, let alone Christmas in general. Obviously that's not to say she didn't learn about Santa through the means of someone else, but she doesn't even have any human friends, nor does she know any other humans, and from what we saw of her life, she doesn't seem to have any modern day electronics like cell phones or computers, so how would she even have a concept of Santa Claus to tell N, V, or J? Whatever, let's move on. I can't not mention this great analysis by Scorpion Demon. Wow, I just realized this when, editing the commentary, but I said Scorpion Demon here instead of Scorpion Dorman, which, funny enough, not long after this, I actually say it as Scorpion Dorman. When you put this special back-to-back with the pilot episode, Jay's conversation with someone on the phone happens at the same time Uzi C tries to lie to her dad about what she's doing. Scorpion Dorman takes notice of this, and mentions the haunting parallels. Jay showcases just how broken she was come to Sin's call, luring her to her incoming visit, and how hopeless she felt against a seemingly unstoppable monster. Uzi showcases how wide-eyed and adventurous she was in wanting to go beyond the doors to complete her project, and how optimistic she was against a seemingly unlikable threat. Sin talked to Jay with, well, her sort of mannerisms, but through it you feel a sense of absolute control, like an abuser holding a sword of Damocles, I probably said that wrong, over the heart of their victim and they can't escape. Can't talk to Uzi with, well, his obliviousness, but through it you can feel a sense of optimistic joy, like he's finally willing to let Uzi be her, albeit with him getting tricked into a false belief. Both showcasing the characters of Uzi and Jay perfectly and why they're two sides of the same coin. One is driven by fear, guilt, and hopelessness. The other is driven by courage, pride, and optimism. Yeah, it's really fun finding parallels between these two characters, which I can add a lot to this. In my original In Defense of Murder Drones Wasted Characters video, I not only brought up how Jay is a dark parallel to V, while Daw is a dark parallel to Uzi. These foil characters all share one thing in common. The light parallels, Uzi and V, grow as characters by learning to trust the people around them, and the show ends with both of them living happily with people who care for them in their lives. Meanwhile, their dark parallels, Daw and Jay, have one major difference. Daw does everything on her accord, while anything Jay does is something Sin ordered her to do. With both of them taking the dark side, they both end the series alone with nobody left who cares for them. I mean, Daw's literally made fun of at her own funeral. You think anybody cares for this bitch? This serves as a great message to the audience, showcasing how if you choose to do good, you'll have people who care for you in your life, while if you choose to do horrible things without taking accountability, you'll end up with nobody there left for you. Speaking of which, I want to mention another parallel I noticed between Nori and Jay while watching this special. Jay's the leader of the Disassembly Drone Trio, while N and V follow her orders. In the pilot, N gets the courage from Uzi to call Jay for being mean to him, which also sparked him into rebellion. When Jay gets temporarily killed off and V gets held captive by N and Uzi, now N and V are left without their leader, and the absence of Jay helps N and V grow as characters. V said herself, "It's just you and me, N." Dude, I just realized this when editing these clips together, but in the finale, N and V managed to defeat Jay all on their own, saying, quote, "Wrong team, no more tricks," which literally proves my point. They managed to grow as characters because of Jay's absence. They legit managed to defeat their own leader. I really know this is similar to Nori because her absence also affected other characters in the opposite way. Specifically, Uzi and Khan. Khan became neglectful of Uzi, instead becoming obsessed with Doors, believing that's what Nori would have wanted. Because of Khan's neglectfulness, Uzi became closed off from other people, believing they'll leave her behind like both her parents did. Man, I love finding parallels. Back to Jay, she's the only one truly aware of the fact they work for Sun. V knows of Sin and the Solver, but isn't aware they're working for her under the guise of JC Jensen. Well, Anne is oblivious to all of it. Since Jay suffered the most from Sin's manipulation, she would obviously be the most fearful of rebelling, which led to her own demise. When V found out the truth about Jay working for Sin, which she found out off screen, she says, quote, "You told us we do our jobs on this planet and leaves us alone," to which Jay responds, "V, it tricked you. If I promised you anything, it tricked me too." Yes, I had to be dramatic while saying that. Bite me. And Jay has every reason to believe there's no escape from the Solver, even in death. If a Disassembly drone ever gets killed off, the Solver repairs it. If a Disassembly drone ever rebels, it gets thrown out. Which, due to Jay's loyalty to the company that made her, she doesn't want to get thrown out. Once Jay is so easily defeated, Sin gets defeated not long afterwards, and her abuser is finally powerless over her, being nothing more than a sentient tail. However, Jay is still loyal to her company, so she can't just join everyone living in the bunker to be friends with them. That would be seen as betrayal and becoming another runaway AI. Now she has no choice left but to leave Copper-9 all by herself. Not to mention, she's completely unaware of Sin's defeat when you think about it. Unless we go into theory territory and say maybe she witnessed Uzi managing to beat her with her own eyes, which could be possible, but that's the thing with murder drones. It's such a convoluted story, and it uses the aspect of show don't tell way too much without realizing there are things that have to be told to the audience directly. Moving on, I feel like Jay's downfall and leaving Copper-9 and having nobody love her as a result of the amount of suffering Sin caused for her mentally can be seen as a metaphor for how much mental health problems and trauma can be caused by an abuser. Healing from trauma as serious as this is not easy, and while this next bit is more of a theory than a fact, Jay probably blames herself for everything, which from what I heard is a common thing for abuse victims. However, I should mention that I am not an expert in psychology, I just happen to know a lot about it. Now, to elaborate on my belief that a redemption arc wouldn't work for Jay's character, does she even believe she's worthy of redemption? Does she even believe she deserves to be saved? In comparison to V, well yes, she's also suffered from Sin's abuse, she hasn't suffered as much as Jay has. Jay and V both put on facades to hide their fear, however Jay's facade is to protect herself, while V's facade is to protect N. As a bonus, Jay hides her fear out of selfishness, and V hides her fear out of protecting someone she cares about. I had a really fun time finding all of these parallels. By the way, I plan to make a part 2 to In Defense of Murder Drone's Wasted Characters sometime soon. There I'm going to discuss Khan, Uzi, N, Sin, and V. Funny thing, I almost like will combine both part 1 and part 2 into a supercut the same way I did for my Inquisitor Master Deep Dive series, but for doing that I have to rewrite the whole section where I defend Jay from scratch in order to refer to her defense case not take up 9% of the video. Because this whole video is basically just me analyzing Jay, which was what I already did when I defended her, and technically in a way this is a Jay defense video, so yeah, that's all I have to say for now. Bill, roll the outro!
Remember, reality is an illusion, the universe is a hologram. Bye, Gold, bye!